Hey 678ers, welcome back to the second night of SMOOPS. If you're 2 for 2 right now, I'm gonna give you 1,000,000 life points. And actually, if this is your very first group night, I'm gonna give you 1,000,000 life points too. Thanks for chilling with us. We're gonna continue talking about what we started talking about last week, identity. If you weren't here, let me catch you up to speed. We said in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, that's really your opportunity to decide and choose what your identity is going to be. And we said that for a lot of us and for a lot of our friends, it's easy to put our identity in school or in sports or in specific hobbies that we have. But we said ultimately none of those things really matter and really should be our identity. The thing that our identity should be in should actually be in Jesus. Our identity should be the fact that we are a child of God. And that if that's true, our life should be lived in response to the fact that that is our identity. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I felt like the identity of my friends was like so clear. It was so clear my friends who were the basketball players. It was so clear my friends who were so crazy athletic. In fact, I had this one friend, and his identity was just in the fact that he was good at everything. It's true. I remember we'd play ping pong, he'd beat me. I remember we'd play basketball, he'd beat me. I remember we'd go out on a boat and he would go wakeboarding and he would go skiing. I remember then in the wintertime, we would go snowboarding and skiing, and he could do tricks off of jumps, like crazy stuff. And I would just be like, man, the more time I spent with him, the more things that I got to see him do, the more I realized that he had this identity of just being awesome, just being good at everything. And the truth was, I had to come to this place where I realized the reason why I was able to so clearly see the identity of my friends around me was because I was able to so clearly see the things that they were doing. The more time I spent with my friends, the more time I got to see the things that my friends would do at school or at home or over the weekends, the more I was able to see what my friend's identity was. And it made me look to myself and go, well, what are the things that I'm doing? Because the truth is, what we do says a lot about who we are. And I had to process through, what are the things that I'm doing? And what do those things have to say about my identity? I bet if I were to follow you around for a week, and I were to see the things that you spent time doing, the things that you were stressed about, the things that you prioritized and the things that you celebrated, the conversations that you had, what you chose to do with your free time, I bet I could get a pretty clear picture of your identity. Maybe that it would be in your grades, that you kind of build your identity around the fact that you get the best grades in the class, or that it'd be around your sport, or it'd be around the fact that you're a musician or a dancer, or whatever the thing is that you do. But again, remember last week we said those things are great and those things are fun, but our identity shouldn't only be in those things. Our identity should be in the fact that we're a child of God. So then you're probably thinking, well then what do Christians do? If my identity is the fact that I'm a Christian and what we do says a lot about who we are, then what are the things that I should be doing in light of my identity being in Jesus? And that's a great question. And I know as I say that, some of you are like, well, duh. Christians go to church. That's what they do. It's true, Christians do go to church, but we're not just children of God when we come into a building or are a part of a small group. Our identity as being children of God should impact us every day, even when we're not in a church building, even when we're not in small groups. Some of you might go, I know what Christians do. I've seen the way that Christians talk about certain groups of people. I've seen what certain Christians have posted on social media. And you go, Christians can sometimes be really rude. Christians can be hateful. Christians can be judgmental. Christians can be hypocritical. Maybe some of you you're even hearing this thinking, actually, the reason why I haven't really bought into this idea of being a Christian or my identity being in Christ is because of the things that Christians do. Maybe some of you, you're just lost when it comes to this question. Maybe you've been wondering this question since day one. Maybe you've said yes to Jesus, Maybe it was even last week when you were like, no, I want this to be true for me. I want my identity to be in the fact that I am a child of God. And then this week you were like, so now what? Am I supposed to do something? Should things be different? Do I need to stop doing things? Like, what should Christians do? Well, here's the great thing. We don't have to guess. The Bible's actually really, really clear that if we are Christians, if our identity is in the fact that we are a child of God, the Bible's pretty clear on what we're supposed to be doing, what our life should be about, the things that we do that say a lot about who we are. In fact, we're going to read something today that was literally told to us by Jesus. And if there's any person who could tell you what it should look like to live as a child of God, it's Jesus. It's like even better than getting gaming advice from Ninja or getting like basketball tips from LeBron. This is what Jesus has to say when it comes to what we should be doing as children of God. If you have your Bibles, go ahead and get them out and open them up. We're going to be in the book of Matthew, chapter 22. We're going to start reading in verse 36. It says this, "Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses?" Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments." Here's what I think is funny. We have no idea the motive of the man who's asking Jesus this question. For all we know, he could be like, Jesus, we have like these 10 rules of the 10 commandments that are like really important that we're supposed to do. But what are the ones we have to get right? And maybe what are the ones we don't have to worry about? And here's what I think is interesting. Jesus said, oh yeah, those 10 rules, let me boil that down and let me make it really just 2 rules. The thing that we should be doing that people would be able to see and immediately know what our identity is this, that we would love God and we would love others. I mean, Jesus makes it so incredibly simple. He says, when it comes to having your identity being in God, then there are some things that should be true for you. There are some things that you would do with your life that people should be able to see, and it would be immediately clear where your identity is. And those things would be that you would spend time and energy and effort loving God and loving others. So let's boil down those 2 things, to love God and to love others. What does it look like to spend time doing things that show our love for God? Well, 1, I think it means that we would spend time praying, connecting with God, having a conversation with God. I think it also means we would spend time reading God's words to us, that we would spend time in our Bible. It'd be doing the reading plan that you have in your booklet. It would mean connecting to things like small group and church. It would mean us being obedient to God in the way that we live our lives, which means when God says something is good, we would run after that. And when God says something is not good or off limits, we would avoid those things. And then, what does it mean to love people? It means we'd be kind to people, and we would forgive people, and we would serve other people. It means we'd be more concerned about the other people in the room than ourselves. And for some of us, that's great. We love people. We love to be around people. We love to meet new people. It is easy for us to smile and be kind and be helpful and look for ways to serve them. And for some of us, if we're honest, we don't love people. People get on our nerves. They bother us. If we had the option of hanging out with people or chilling by ourselves, we would choose ourselves. Listen, if that's you, part of your identity in being a Christ follower, part of your identity in being a child of God is that you would show love to other people. And that might need to start for you by spending time praying for other people. Spending time really talking to God and asking Him to do awesome things in the lives of the people around you. And this is a big thing. It's a significant thing. It might even seem like a scary thing. But one of the best ways that we can show love to the people around us is by telling those people about God. It's by telling them that we go to church, that we believe in Jesus. It's by telling those people that we are praying for them. Ultimately, as people who find our identity in God, as people who would say we are children of God, then that should influence the things that we do, because what we do is an expression of who we are. What we do flows from who we are, and what we should be doing if we're children of God is loving God and loving others. So let me ask you a question. If I followed you around this week and I saw the things that you did and what you spent your time doing, what you prioritized, what you celebrated, what you were pumped for, what would I see? I know I'm going to see school stuff. I know I'm going to see hobbies. I know I'm going to see the sport that you play. All that stuff's great. But am I also going to see you spending time to love God and love others? If not, I want you to work on that this week. And for some of us, that might mean we have to really lean into what it looks like to show love to God this week. We might be great at being kind and helpful and serving other people, but we might never spend time praying or in our Bibles. We might not make group a priority. Listen, if that's you, then this week I want you to really lean into what it looks like to love God this week. And for some of you, you might go, I got the God part. I am good with that. It's other people that I have a problem with. That's you. You need to figure out a real way that you can show love to people this week. Be kind to them, forgive them, pray for them, maybe even tell someone about Jesus or invite someone to group next week. And if you're hearing this and you're like, well, I'm not even confident my identity is in Jesus. I'm not even confident I would say my identity is in the fact that I'm a child of God. I'm just kind of here for the fun. I'm kind of here because a friend brought me, and I'm not even sure if I can really buy into all this. I just want to say this. Whether you are a believer or you are not a believer, you belong here. We love you. Whether you feel like you are close and connected to God or you feel like you're not sure about this whole God thing, you belong here and we love you. Stay connected. Figure this out together. Keep coming back to group. So your challenge this week, find one way to show love to God this week. Find one way to show love to other people this week. And then come back next week ready to share what those things were. Go to your groups, have conversations, and we'll see you guys next time.